So, the question is, am I going to shoot it better? I liked the shots we got at App State. Some of them were contested, some of them were open, and I got confidence in our guys to knock them down. So we just obviously need to shoot the ball better. Part of it is, let's just say, the last two games where we haven't shot it very well. Virginia Tech and App State are both good basketball teams and good defensive teams, and just you may not have quite as much time and space as you would against other opponents where you were wide open instead of just open. Nobody's guarding us at the foul line, so we've got to do a better job of making more than 9 and missing 10 in a close game. And these games against good teams are going to be close games. Indiana obviously is a blue blood. It's a historic program out of the Big Ten, and what an opportunity for us to be able to play one of the blue bloods in college basketball. And I say that with all due respect. I coached 9 years at Southern Indiana, and I was there when Coach Knight was there. And so, one of the things I was doing as a young head coach was watching Coach Knight. I was listening to his radio show, and I always was so impressed with how he communicated with the fans. He absolutely taught the game to the fan base, and he actually had more respect for the fans than he did the media. He would give the media such a hard time and barely answer their questions. And some random caller from Fishers, Indiana, whatever, he'd go and answer that question and break it down. And I learned a lot by listening to him and watching him. This is going to be a very physical game on Saturday. Indiana, obviously coming out of the Big Ten, has got two dominating post players. A 7-footer, Khalil Ware, who is a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar watch list member, averaging 17 and shooting 64% from the floor. And then Renew is a very similar player to Janai Broom, just a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, not quite as big, but also left-handed. And so those two guys, Indiana's got the best front line in the Big Ten. And so it'll be, and we'd like to think that we've got one of the best front lines in the SEC. And so it's going to be a great matchup from that standpoint. Indiana will probably be, Baylor would be probably the best team we've seen so far, in Indiana will clearly be the second best team we've seen so far.
Bruce, Indiana, with that front court, pretty unique in that they don't take a lot of threes, and in the modern game, there's not very many of those teams that kind of do that. Just talk about the defense, like getting ready to play a team like that on defense, because not very many teams are as old school as they are on offense, just pounded it in there.
Yeah, they are. And those guys, a lot of your defensive schemes are going to be to try to how to defend the post and, how to keep it out of there if you can. They're going to get it in there. And what do you do when you get it in there? And so a lot of what we're doing now is going to be dealing with that. And so that's your challenge all the way from your on-ball stuff to your off-ball stuff, and being able to make the adjustments to playing a dominating front line, dominating post offensive team. We may not play another team like that all year long.
You mentioned your time at USI and just kind of being around just the state of Indiana basketball there. I guess being around that state kind of in your first head coaching job, I guess, was there something maybe you picked up from those radio shows with Bob Knight that helped you kind of get to developing as a head coach?
I think perhaps just a recognition that, like, let's just take Indiana, Kentucky, North Carolina, even those three states, Tobacco Road and Indiana, Kentucky right in there. Their fan base, their fans know the game. They knew the game because when they were in high school, they played the game, and there's a basketball rim or a backboard on every light pole in the state, everybody's backyard. And as a result, the high school coaching is outstanding. The youth coaching is outstanding. Therefore, the players are high IQ. And so I think the biggest thing I learned is that, it would be, now, they don't know nothing about football, right? Whereas our fan base, they've forgotten more than some of our coaches know in football. But we pride ourselves on that in the SEC. It just means more, and we, dominating football conference. And so that's just sort of the biggest takeaway. I mean, they build high school gyms in Indiana that hold 6,000 and 7,000 and fill them on Friday nights. It's like Texas high school football. So or Alabama high school football. It's the same thing, Like we're kind of an everything school, which is awesome. They're a men's college basketball school. Pretty good soccer too.
You talk about how much Indiana works their offense through the post. I think opponents they're averaging like 22 fouls against them. How do you anticipate Janai and Dylan being able to handle that and stay out of foul trouble?
Well, I got 10 fouls to use, so that's 10 out of 22. They dump it in there, and Renault in particular he just forces you to foul. He just forces you to foul him. He is big, strong, physical, athletic, bouncy, and he's a terror in there. So it's going to be a challenging game for the officials to referee the post. But you got to guard Janai. You got to guard Dylan. You got to guard our guys inside too. So, but they go to the line a lot, and they do draw a lot of fouls. So.
Yes, Bruce, you've talked about how your team is going to bounce back from adversity, challenging them, taking them to places like App State. Yeah. How do you feel like your team has responded this week from what happened?
I think they did good. So, it's all about the math, right? So, I'm sure, again, people are just wondering, why in the world would you go to App State to play? In addition to just it being the right thing to do, and it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. And if it's such a right thing to do, then why does nobody do it? Well, that doesn't mean that's just not the reason why you don't do it. Appy State is, I believe, 47 in the net. That's a quad one loss on the road right now. And yet it was a game it was a winnable game for us. It was a winnable game for us in spite of that hostile environment. Now it'll wind up being a quad two road loss because once they get into the Sun Belt, their math won't be as good as it is right now. And it could have been a quad one road win. Down 3 with 3 possessions and not converting and, whatever we didn't do. But we also held Appy State to 7 points in the last 7 minutes of that game to give ourselves a chance. So our guys, we did a lot of good things. The biggest thing would just simply be the confidence. I want my guys being confident. And if they're open, I want them to shoot it. And I thought for the most part, most of the shots that we took were good shots.
Bruce, have you seen Aiden kind of try to bounce back? This week, the last couple games have been rougher for him shooting, but obviously got off to a really good start this year. Just have you seen him kind of respond to some of this adversity early on?
Yeah. So, when I'm coaching my players, I know what they're really good at, and so let's just say the first time the world saw Aiden in a college basketball game was at Baylor, against Baylor. So he shot it really well. So we did some things at that Baylor game that, you're like, wow, he can really shoot it. Well, the opponents have seen that too now. And so they're doing some things defensively to try to not let him shoot it as easily. And then as a result, we have to work harder to get him those shots, or then he's got to do other things to take advantage of how the defenses are guarding him.